I've had the pleasure of introducing our next guest on a number of occasions. He's a veteran of many plasticity forums, and with more than 35 years experience in the scrap plastics industry. He's a veteran of that too. He's a leader in the world of plastics recycling. President of China Scrap Plastics Association and founder and managing director of Fukutomi Limited. Please welcome Steve Wong.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for being here to share my thought and my experience with everybody. To start with, I would like to say I'm actually a recycler since 1984 with this 30-something years experience. In the very beginning, we recycle or we turn plastic scrap into recycled pellets only because of one thing, which is we supply the material to the downstream converters, and converter can save money and we can make use of the waste. Today, situation changed. What we see today, we talk about sustainability, we talk about circular economy, we talk about environmental focus, blah, blah, blah. So the whole world changed. So that's why we are here. We never have attention of the media, have the general public, government, and NGO. So this means the world has changed. So this is the very famous pictures that you probably see almost every day. There's no single day that we don't see plastics, scrap plastics, waste in the ocean, in the media. So it's also drawing lots of attention from the media, and the media also monitoring our industry as well as giving everybody message that what we should do. Let me talk about a little bit plastic history. The first piece of plastic on Earth, it was back to 1862. In those days, plastic was made mainly this, we call it bakelite. It's for material like nowadays, like mahjong, like socket, and also telephone. So these are the plastic that you cannot be recycled again. And today, this piece of plastic is still there because it takes like thousands of years, in this case, to be biodegraded. And the next picture that you see is polyethylene. That was invented last century, 1933, and it was widely used during the Second World War. And the biggest application of this polyethylene is for packaging of different kind of material or products or medical application, blah, blah, blah. And also, you name it, okay, the most popular one nowadays is carrier bags. And this is nowadays the biggest stream of single-use plastic. And the good thing about plastic is it makes our life more convenient and easy. Today we see lots of automobiles, they are using more and more plastics because of the characteristic, because of the weight, because very, very convenient. And sometimes plastic can perform better than metal or other materials. And the biggest application for us we see, apart from the single-use plastic, is electrical appliance and also medical application. And nowadays, without plastic, we're not able to grow as much as like before on the agricultural produce. And these are the pictures that I would like to draw everybody's attention. We are talking about waste every day. We are talking about material need to be recycled. We are talking about waste shipping from developed country to developing country. Some of the, I always use scrap, okay, this is the word I always use. I don't normally use waste because for us, if we can recycle them, this is not waste. And this is also not rubbish. So I always use the word scrap, okay. It's a matter of like how you separate them and how you recycle them. On the, I think from here might be from me, on the left-hand side, okay, this is a bunch of different kind of plastics, and these are from municipality. In fact, most of the scrap that we see or we're not able to handle are the very, very mixed one, and even though we still can recycle after you separate them. But the one that already recycled in-house in the plastic industry, that never really a big problem. And also with a petrochemical, when they make plant material, there's always lots of waste. But this is 100% recycled. And what we see here are the material that collected from the household, and with the MRF, material recovery facility, they sort out different kind of solid waste like paper, metal, and plastic are the last stream that they will sort out, and they separate the PET bottle, HDPE bottle, and the rest. Sometimes we call it 1 to 7. One is PET, two is PE, and third is a PVC, blah, blah, blah. And then with this material, today, because of the capacity and because of the economic value and the amount of money that we need to sort, so we have lots of this, right? On the other hand, we also have lots of factories, especially in the Southeast Asian countries after the Chinese ban on the plastic import. I estimate that there's more than 25,000 small and medium-sized and big corporation factories in Southeast Asian countries. These factories nowadays, they have overcapacity, and I guess they probably only be able to operate on average about 10%. And they have a capacity of like, my calculation, about 7.5 million tons per month. And we are talking about today, the global exporting quantity from developed countries is only about 8 million tons. So there's a mismatching, imbalance. So we talk about mismatching, and what we need to do, okay, we talk about what we need to do. The solution to this one is recycling is not only about collection. Recycling is about separation, and also actually put the material into the machine for processing. And with this processing, we have different stage. And later on, I don't know whether we still can get this or not. At the end of the day, I would say we can recycle everything. It's a matter of cost, it's a matter of technology, and today, with the technological advancement, there's nothing that we cannot recycle. And the technology available for recycling is quite handy and also user-friendly. And I would not say there's any distinguish between recycle in developed country or developing country in terms of machinery, in terms of technology, because these are easily available and also at not too expensive or inexpensive compared with those days. And second thing is about recycling in Southeast Asian country different from developed country. It's a matter of like attitude and also behavior and regulations. Here you see pictures of like close the loop. We can actually do it with like the first step. We have a collection, and then afterward we have a machine to separate them, and eventually we make the waste into recyclable pellets and apply it to the same industry. In this case, it's PET bottle. This is the most popular one. But of course, we have so many examples. We're not only focusing on 1 to 7. In actual fact, we can, like for example, in the automobile industry, we can do bumper to bumper. Yeah. And I also stress one thing about, when we talk about close the loop, when we talk about brand name, they committed themselves to using 100% recycled content. One thing they always need to have the criteria that must meet the color, mechanical and chemical property, of course also price. I don't know what they do with the prices. In some cases, recycled content is more expensive than the prime material. And that just now shares the point of view about how much is the cost of the landfill. In fact, the cost of environmental consequences is a lot higher, it's unmeasurable. So the way how we look at it is not only about landfill cost. So here also about recycling, and eventually we recycle from something through this value chain. Every process that we do, we add value to a product, and everybody benefit from the value chain. The picture we have just now was mechanical recycling. Mechanical recycling basically include in the case of like PET bottle, we recycle them into freight. Nowadays, also again with the technology, we are able to use the freight and make into thermoforming sheet. And of course, you also can recycle them into pellets, and then afterward, then you use for different applications depending on the mechanical property. And people have been talking about chemical recycling. In chemical recycling, I also don't want to spend much time on this. Basically, nowadays we heard about or we see some plant going on with pyrolysis. And to me, the only thing that I see successfully is simple or polymer like polyethylene. And after you sort it, you use the process of pyrolysis and gasify, and then in the end solidify. This process, I believe, these things works. Just matter of whether this is financially efficient or not. And with the oil prices like nowadays, it might not work. Okay, and also after you sort out the LDPE material, you might as well recycle them into LDPE pellets. So in the end, because of this, we don't really see a lot of plant doing pyrolysis, turning PE or different polymer into gas or into oil. And one of the things that I also like to emphasize, maybe later on you will see my slides about the residue. Today, lots of people talk about the residue. You put every plastic together and then turn it into like, or use chemical recycling into different like energy. For example, like into oil or into different, I would say, not necessarily repurpose, okay, but I don't really believe in this unless, okay, I will see some number economically whether this is efficient or not. And the other one that we see nowadays also repurpose, which is turn waste, okay, into energy. So that works pretty well, but then again, you know, depending on the collection and the cost of doing it. Yeah, this is the example. This is re-scrap, waste electrical electronic equipment. This is normally you see or you use at home. I guess, or from different reports, okay, there's more than 150 different kind of materials in this stream of the plastic scrap. And what people normally do, first of all, they use a sink flow to take out PEPP, which will be used for making pallet, making flower pot. And then afterward, they use density to separate PS and ABS. And because this is black in color, so they also have to use electrostatic machine instead of the near-infrared to separate the ABS from PS. Again, this is really mature technology. And then the rest, okay, is about 30–40% of the other material. This other material, as what I mentioned, is more than 100 different types. These are the material that they are with glass fiber, with additive, and some of this additive could be halogen. With halogen that is harmful to human body and also harmful to the environment. So these are the ones that in fact draw a lot of attention of the government and also the general public. In some country, yesterday we had one government official from Malaysia, and one time I saw one of the documentary that there are lots of residue of the re-scrap laying everywhere in the country. So this is also an environmental problem. But this is the material that we can also recycle 100% if there's enough financial support or motivation. These numbers, and I don't know whether everybody agree or not. Like at this moment, we are different numbers. That every year we have so many metric ton of plastic plant material being made. The highest number I've seen is 350 million tons, but the lowest is 300 million tons. Anyway, this is a lot. So my next page, I will be talking about at this moment because of the single plastic. Some of the country they enforce law that it will not be allowed, you know, for some plastic like straw or carrier bags, and also in California, San Francisco, Even PET bottled water is not allowed to sell at the airport, and also a lot of government organizations, they will not provide plastic bottle. The result of this one would be there could be an impact to the demand of the plastic, and eventually we are talking about 350 million tons. Whether this is going to be sustainable for that kind of tonnage to be produced every year. And when we talk about like 10%, I have my doubt about this 10%, and I never know how this 10% is achieved. But one thing I know for sure, there's a lot of material not being recycled, especially from post-consumer. Okay, we talk about like lots of challenges. One of them is regulation. And this we have like Basel Convention Amendment to be enforced next year. So these are the most famous pictures that the monitor, the media monitoring us, and the government had to do something once the media post very negative image about pollution. So here are the brand owner, and just now I mentioned about brand owner would help us a lot because they give us incentive to recycle because they committed themselves to using a lot of recycled content. Often, I don't understand with the policy 100%. For example, some of the material really cannot be reused for the same purpose, especially color. So this is a HDPE bottle made out of HDPE milk bottle. And you see the color is a little bit off. So the only thing that you can use for this kind of bottle might be to make something not natural, might be brown, orange, depending on what kind of orange. Bright orange is no good. Other color, but not as bright as like you use a prime material. So this is an example. So conclusion is we need to work together. All these parties, government, general public, NGO, brand owners. And here are the implications that, okay, whether plastic is going to be, in terms of the prime material, the quantity will increase not depending on the growth of the population, the attitude of the general public, and also some developed countries, they will have to use less and less material, or they already committed. In developing countries, sometimes because they have very small or low base number, like 3-point-something kilo. So this is also another number showing that in the next 20, 30 years, our population will be like 10 billion, and the growth of the plastic, might be. It's all depending on how much you recycle, and also and also commitment of the brand owner. So these are the arguments: single-use plastic, and whether we should recycle them or we should stop them, because plastic brings us a lot of convenience. Okay, thank you. Thank you.